everyone. Welcome to Bridgem Professional Women's Group webinar, How to Build Your Network with Purpose. Also welcome to our panelists, who will be more formally introduced to you by our moderator today, Soni Jatnani, the chairwoman of Bridgem Professional Women's Group, and also Chris Wren, the executive director of Bridgem Indonesia. A quick house rules before we begin. Please be informed that this webinar is being recorded and the recording will be shared when it is available. All participants will be muted to avoid background noises and to enable our panelists to present without interruption. Last but not least, if you have any questions, please type them into the Q&A box at any time. Now, without further ado, I'm going to hand the screen over to Chris Wren, the Executive Director of Bridgem Indonesia, to open this webinar.
Thank you very much, Fira. A very warm welcome to everybody that's on this webinar. I know there are some people in different parts of the world, so it could be good morning in some cases. It could be later afternoon in others. Wherever you are, very, very welcome indeed to this webinar, How to Build Your Network with Purpose, which is brought to you by Bridgem's Professional Women's Group, which under Soni's absolutely fantastic leadership is now celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And we have never had a year with a greater array of speakers and panelists and views, people with information to share, intelligence to impart, and some tremendous thought leadership as well. Our annual partners for this Professional Women's Group are 57 Promenade, Shell Indonesia, South Quarter Residence Jakarta, and Unilever Indonesia. Bridgem is able to bring you so many offerings, whether it's things into your inbox, whether it's things via webinar. We're able to do it on a complimentary basis because of the generous support of our sponsors. So thank you very much for those 4 organizations, and also to our supporting partner for this particular webinar, which is the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, ICAEW. With that, I think it's my pleasure to hand the baton over to Soni herself, who'll give you a more formal introduction to our speakers today. All that I'd like to do is encourage you all to be as interactive as possible. Some of you have already put in questions via email. That's great, we've got them. But for others of you, just use the chat box and we'll try to get through as many of those questions as we can. Sit back, relax, enjoy. Soni, all yours.
Thank you so much, Chris, and hello, everyone. Welcome to our really exciting event today. And I love the topic, how to network with purpose. I think for those of you who don't know me, I'm an avid networking, a very passionate networker. And I'm so grateful to the Bridgem because for the past 10 years, as Chris said, the Bridgem Professional Women's Group has been a platform for me to grow and become the person that I am. I've been able to moderate and host wonderful speakers, successful leaders, and together we learn and share and grow on this platform. Our tagline is to uplift and connect women in business. And I think nowadays, we forget that there is so much that we can do online. And so we have our 2 speakers to share with us how to network, how to build a network despite going online. And earlier, I asked Asti, our event, the Bridgem events team, to remind me when we started doing online events, because we used to do only offline events. And we have started in May. And I still remember how nervous I was to do an event on Zoom. It took me a couple of months to shift from offline in-person networking to online digital networking. And I owe it to the Bridgem team, who are young and dynamic, who really encouraged me that, yes, you can do it. And today, 1.5 years later, we are doing events every month. And I am so in sync and so happy and so motivated to keep doing events online. So thank you for joining us. I'm sure we're going to have some really wonderful takeaways from today's session. And I'd like to start with May. May is she's the CFO of Yummy Corporation. She's an experienced operational finance executive with a vast experience of over 25 years of working across different industries, including manufacturing, pharmaceutical, watchmaking, retail, cakes and pastries in Indonesia, Malaysia, and USA. I won't read the rest of the CV because you all can do that, but I would like to ask May to introduce herself specifically in her role as CFO of Yummy Corp. May, could you please share with us what are some of the changes that you have implemented since COVID-19 and how you have managed to grow the business as well as Yummy Corp's online community during and post-COVID?
Okay. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much, Sonny, for inviting me and giving such a nice background into how Bridgeham was. And thank you, Chris, for being here with us today. So a little bit about what we do and a little bit about myself. I think about myself, Sonny has given excellent remarks. So as to the sponsor that Chris announced just now, I would just say actually two of the sponsors, which is Shell and Unilever, are our current partners in Yummy. So, but I think we work in different divisions. So as to how Yummy has done it in the last, I would say 20 months. So we start working from home since March 2020. And I think in a blink of eyes, we are already now in almost October 2021. So good news for us in Yummy as we have actually grown the business in terms of sales value. We have actually grown 3 times since 2019. So the COVID has been kind and good to us as a company. And then we have grown actually from 20 kitchens to now 80 kitchens. And how did we do it? Besides that, we also have done a successful fundraising. We have raised $12 million in the middle of COVID. So the investors have really trusted us and believe that our business is the right thing to do, and thus they have continued to invest in us. So it has been very positive for our business growth. Why? Because Yummy, we are like a food tech company. So we do not, we have been set up in the beginning, from the very beginning, as something that we do for food business in the future, not something traditional business. So when COVID comes, it's actually help us because, example, why? Example, like we are doing a cloud kitchen. So today, Yummy is actually the #1 cloud kitchen operator in Indonesia with the most available kitchen. And how COVID have helped us to grow so much faster, because during COVID, a lot of the conventional business, or we would say with the PPKM, with I cannot remember whatever lockdowns that we have, all the malls are closed, all the restaurants are closed, people can no longer dine in, people cannot no longer, essentially if you don't cook, you cannot buy food. So what do they rely on? So they rely on food delivery. And we are cloud kitchen provider, whereby we provide foods through all the online platform, GoFood, GrabFood, Shopee Food, Traveloka Eats, and in different platform, people can order their different food. In fact, we have our own apps called the Yummy Box, whereby you can order your daily catering menu through the app. So with the COVID, actually, it has actually helped us doing that. And how do we get partners to onboard? Before the COVID, a lot of businesses were a bit worried and a bit wary when we say, hey, come sign on, join us in the cloud kitchen, join us in this new space of working on platform delivery. They were always like, let me think about it first, let me see. But when COVID comes and every business has to stop operating, they in turn have to think of ways, how are they going to continue the business continuity? And actually, Yummy, we gave them that solution. We say, okay, you are operating out of a mall. All the malls are closed. So how are you gonna sell your food? Because there will be nobody coming into the location. Therefore, they think, yeah, Yummy is the solution for them. And then we have overnight turned from we approaching people and having difficulty getting people to accept the new concept. Today, we have actually a lot more partners coming to us and say, hey, can we work with you? Can you help us how to expand our business? Can you do this for us? I know what are the things that we can do together. So overall, I would say, because we were a business, I was lucky to join Yummy, where we were in a business of the future. And COVID was just about the right time to help us accelerate that. And in terms of the team management, so from the beginning, Yummy as a millennial startup company was always based on what we call, we don't have work from home back then. I think work from home is a new word created. We call it remote working. So we were actually already allowing a lot of our associates and our team to work from home, essentially, but we call it remote. So when COVID came, it was not, it was almost second nature to us, because all our data is stored in the cloud. Our apps are built for mobile. We don't build apps for websites. So it was all mobile based. So we fit in directly. But however, we do face a little bit small challenges, especially like in a more traditional way of finance, whereby finance, we still based on paper, audit trail, we still need invoices, and we still work with some traditional vendors that rely on paper. So that was our only challenge, where I say, hey, we are not working in the office. Can you please scan your invoice, bring it to us? We cannot accept all those manual paper anymore. If you would like, please drop it in the Dropbox. So that was by far our biggest challenge to migrate that. But other than that, I think we transitioned very smoothly during the COVID. And I think we are now setting up a new normal. New normal to us is more or less what we are doing today. Not much is going to change. So that's a little bit about Yummy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, May. And it's so, I think I mentioned earlier, it's so wonderful to see a panelist who is so smiling so wonderfully, who has such a success story. And I'm sure there will be more questions later. But now I would like to introduce our next speaker, who is joining us all the way from India, Vandana Saxena Poria. And Vandana Saxena Poria is also OBE, Chief Alarmist at the Human Alarm Clock and Company, a TEDx speaker, and ICAEW Chartered Accountant. So I had a conversation with Vandana last week, and I was like, wow, totally blown away, because she's like a guru for me. I love networking, and Vandana was just going on and on about the benefits of networking. And so Vandana, I would like you to please share, because your tagline is delivering frameworks that enable people to collectively thrive and evolve in their personal and professional lives. Can you share your role as a chief alarmist, and what are some of the frameworks that you have helped to create in order to help people succeed during and after COVID?
Thanks so much, Sonny. Yeah, it's interesting. So I grew up in the UK, as you can probably tell from the accent, and ICAEW, I qualified as a chartered accountant in the UK. And then I spent 10 years in Eastern Europe, and then the last 15 years in India. So I've been around a lot. I sold my first company when I was 27 to a listed company. And I set up the next company when I moved to India, and I was 7 months pregnant with my second child, and set that company up. I exited that, I think 5 years ago. And so I've gone from being a CA to a CA, a chartered accountant, to a chief alarmist. And actually, the reason I do what I do is during all these years of meeting so many different people at so many different levels, from royalty to ministers to street cleaners, right, to everyone. I talk to everyone. And what I found was everyone's facing the same problems. And so I thought, why don't I create an alarm system for the mind instead of, we have alarms to get up in the morning, et cetera, and I wanted to be an alarm clock for the mind. So chartered accountants, as you know, use a framework of a balance sheet, and then they look at flows of income and expenses to work out your profit. And so I help you create a framework where you can work out the flows that give you your professional and your personal balance, right? And you think about it, we use frameworks for everything in our lives, calendars for our diaries, routine for getting the cooking done. You know, I'll cut the vegetables. No, I'll wash them first, then I'll cut the vegetables. We do all of this. We even have frameworks for ordering a yummy box, right? From May and everyone, or driving a car. But we have no framework or processes for filtering our thoughts, organizing our thoughts, connecting our thoughts, working out what's real and what's not real. And so we end up having this jumble of thoughts in our heads. And sometimes this jumble can become quite vicious. We have this little voice that tells us we're doing the wrong thing. We second guess ourselves. We feel like an imposter. I wonder if, you know, this is ringing or resonating with any of you. Maybe in the chat box, you can tell us if that is the case. So, and then on top of all of these feelings like being an imposter, we've got this ever-changing, uncertain, really difficult world. We've got COVID, we've got family members dying, we can't go out, the way of working is dramatically different, and we're having to adapt to a lot of things internally. Now, what we don't realize is that when we have all these worries in our head, the growth and learning parts of our brain actually shut down and limit our thinking. And so it's no wonder we end up with low energy and stress and our bandwidth being really low because our flows are really poor. It's like having cash flow problems in a business, right? It's like we've got, all these thoughts that are jumbling up our most precious resource, which is our time and our brain. So my premise is really simple, and my team's premise is really simple. Can we implement mental frameworks that help us deal with what's going on inside our most precious asset, which is our brain? Can we clear the bandwidth of unnecessary noise? And can we create better flows, right? And my work has shown that when people are playful, courageous, and curious, learning is just transformational, right? The way we get teams to move, the way we move is really incredible. So I basically disrupt people's thought processes in a fun way, help them work out what the noise is, and then help create toolkits to deal with that noise and get rid of it. So just to give you one very quick example, I've got this philosophy called RID, R-I-D, rid the fear. So RID stands for R-I-D, recognize when you're feeling fearful or uncertain, and understand what the root cause of it is. So for example, with networking, most people will go, I feel uncomfortable networking. And I ask them why, and they go, I don't know what to say. And I say, no, you know exactly what to say because you have conversations all the time with other people. So your fear is actually you have nothing in common with these other people, which is crazy because you're judging them just based on this face. So identify a time in your life where you felt the same, but you got through it. Now think about your first day at school. Your first day at school, you knew no one. What did you do? So think about the values and strengths you used at that time, which is obviously, I'm going to go and talk to people. I'm going to find things in common. I'm going to take the initiative. And can you use all of those three things in networking to now develop a plan to preempt the fears? And next time I go for networking, I'm going to have a bank of questions that can help me work out what I've got in common with the person. So that's an example of what I do. Just get people to realize it's okay to be jumbled, but we can actually unjumble.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Wow, like that was really, it felt like a TEDx talk in 5 minutes. Thank you. And that's exactly what I keep hearing from people saying to me, that we are afraid of networking. And actually now what I tell them is don't even use the word networking, because there's so many ways we can call a meeting like this, interaction, community, social.
So
Yes,
I just want to say, Sonny, I say don't think about it as networking. Think about it as building a people ecosystem,
yes.
Right? Yes. Build a system where you've got lots of people and you're helping them and they're helping you. And so you're thriving. And if you do that now, in 10 years' time, my goodness, you'll have all the team that you need around you to support you and for you to support others.
Yes, wonderful. And May, would you like to contribute, as to exactly how Yummy Corp has built a people ecosystem, as Vandana puts it?
I think for Yummy, we are like a young organization, right? So we have on it, but we have indeed grown. So our company growth during the pandemic from like 400 employees to today, we are like 1,000 employees. So we have actually grown 3 times as well. We do find a little bit complication how to meet all these 1,000 employees, right? So we have to resort into like online chatting. So we use a program called LAC as our communication, whereby we post the human capital has to do a lot of things. They have to do fun photo competition, and then they have to do like video competition to get the engagement of the employees. So, because what we do not have today is we are no longer able to do face-to-face meeting. A lot of people onboarded, so 2/3 of our people actually onboarded during the pandemic. They have never met each other. Without meeting each other, they do not know how the other person looked like. And in the beginning, we all have video on for our daily stand-ups or our daily meeting. And then everybody got like, do I really need to change my clothes and do makeup for just that meeting? So, and then everybody was online. Bandwidth became a problem. So we decided no more videos. And since we shut off the video, we never turn on the video again. So a lot of people that we work with from day one until today, we have never met them. So we are relying on chat box, forums within the company. And when they meet someone for the first time, they say, oh, you were that person that I was talking to all the time. Apparently you look like that. So that's why the human capital tried to do a lot of things to do it in a sense that we try to keep that communication. We try to keep that community that, hey, Yummies, Yumsters, you are part of Yummy. Your work is important to us. Your contribution is doing this. Your contribution is doing that. And we share our company updates in those forums. So we look forward to one day where we are able to do what we used to do, a physical town hall, but today we are all relying online to do all this communication.
And Vandana, could you add on this and just tell us, how is it been doing the training that you do online? Has it been difficult to make the shift from offline to online training and speaking, to motivate people?
So, this is where your experience, you never know why you do things, right? I have to tell you, when I was 21, I got the opportunity to work on local radio, right, in London. And it was just one of those fun things that I did. But when you work on local radio, you're sitting in this box that's really tiny with these cardboard boxes around you. So there's no echo whatsoever. And all you have is this mic. And you're just talking to no one, right? So I learned when I was 21, actually, how to talk to no one. So when online came, it was actually a blessing because you could actually see people as well. And so in some ways, that really helped me. And also, because I've done so much teaching and training and consulting, and a lot of it was online before, it wasn't so difficult to transition almost full time. Well, it was all full time online, but the types of sessions changed. Whereas you could do a whole day meeting or even a half day meeting, you couldn't do training for a whole day. You would have to break it up, 45 minutes, then do something fun, and then another 45 minutes. And that was it for the day. So you had to change the way you actually operated. What I found really helpful was organizing. I actually initiated organizing many online events right at the early stages. So I had Zoom, decided to invest in Zoom straight away and not have that 40-minute warning coming out. And I'd just call up my clients and say, hey, should we have a round table? Or I would ring up 10 people in my network and say, hey, should we talk about what we're going through? And because they were light and it was a safe space, people were willing to talk. And actually, they ended up being more honest than when we meet in person. I don't know why. And what we would do is we would have rooms within the room. So after 15 minutes of chatting, we'd then go and have a coffee break where we would actually go into another room just with one other person. So it was like a real coffee break, and it felt like a real coffee break. It felt like a water cooler conversation. So those were some of the things that I did.
Wow, that's really amazing. And those are really good tips. Are there any other platforms that you recommend, both of you, besides Zoom, for online networking, or, as you said, having a round table, a safe space? What other platforms are actually useful?
I think, if I start, May, I think one platform that's very powerful is LinkedIn. Not to actually have physical meets, but now, blog posts are actually quite vital. And it's not so much about how many followers you've got. It's about who you're interacting with and the exchange of ideas. I think that's really important. Having cross conversations with other people, reading and commenting on other people's posts, enriching your knowledge. I think, one of my most successful posts was where I said that I was lamenting that my daughter was watching too much Netflix. I said, you should read a book. And she said, what do you recommend? And I was stuck because I was like, what do I recommend for a 15-year-old? So I went straight onto LinkedIn and I said, look, this is what I would recommend to your daughters, but I know my daughter's never going to listen to me. So what do you recommend? And I got this fantastic chain of brilliant books. People will come on and say, oh, my daughter really enjoyed this, or, my son enjoyed this, or whatever. And it became a really valuable thread. So sometimes don't think about the number of followers. Think about quality rather than quantity. Just think about, where are you adding value and who's adding value to you? Find your tribe. So LinkedIn is one that I would definitely strongly recommend.
Thank you, Vandana. And you, May, where have you found?
I think I'm in with Vandana on that. I was going to say LinkedIn has always been helpful. LinkedIn is where we have all our professional connections, whereby on personal, we will always go for like IG, Facebook, and right now TikTok. So TikTok is still very new to me. I don't use that platform, but I think as for networking, for something fun and nice, people go for this like Insta stories, IG reels, and then TikTok. Those are good networking for something personal, something fun. You can always find your interest group, follow your favorite K-drama actor, what's the famous movies reviews like. So those are very fun place to network. But I guess for something professional, something more serious, I would definitely run to LinkedIn. And LinkedIn has personally helped me a lot in terms of people knowing me searching on people we would like to work with, we would like to have business with, potential employer, potential employee, potential team members, everything is there on LinkedIn. And it has been really, really helpful. For internals, we stick with, like I said, in Yami now we use Lark. We used to use Google. Google is also a very stable and a good platform besides Zoom. And we were already using it way before Zoom was in practice. So we didn't need to buy the Zoom. So I think personal, I would definitely go for Facebook and IG, but Facebook is a little bit thing of the past. Today is all Instagram. Used to be Snapchat for the younger generation, Snapchat, and now it's all TikTok. Indonesia is very, very famous on TikTok, but I didn't have a chance to play much on it yet.
Thank you. I will invite Chris to ask a question, but before that, I have one question because I'm also a networking trainer, and many times I get asked the question because they make a joke. Networking is actually not working because they tell me you're always having so much fun. When do you really work, Sony? I get that question all the time. And so a very relevant question from here is that how do we monetize our networks? Because sometimes community work is volunteering, where you participate, you volunteer, you step up to fill roles to build a community. How do we make it win-win so those who are actively participating in communities can actually monetize it? Any ideas or tips from you two experts?
So I'll give you an example, right? And the phrase that I'd love you to remember is build relationships before bank accounts, right? And the reason I say that is, yeah, you make a valid point. We're always thinking, can we sweat the network? When you stop thinking about a network as being a network and you start thinking about it being as an ecosystem, you start thinking differently. You start thinking about how can I contribute? And what do I need and how can I be contributed to? So I'll give you a really simple example. My daughter, she keeps coming up, doesn't she? I have a son as well, who's just started university 2 days ago. But my daughter, when she was about 7, she got chosen to be in this theatre production, and it was being done by an outside theatre organization in Pune. And being, a bit of a paranoid mother, I decided I wanted to drop her and pick her up. And so I would drop her, and then I'd think, oh, it's only an hour and a half. I might as well just stay here, take my computer, do some work and go home. There was another mother just like me who was doing exactly the same with her daughter. And so the first time we just kind of like nodded at each other. Then the next time we sat next to each other, what's your daughter's name? Zara. I said, oh, my daughter's name is Zara as well. So then we just started chatting. And then the theatre director asked us to help, because we were there, so we might as well do some help. So we did some coordinating and we became really good friends. Now today, she is my 3rd biggest client. I didn't start off by expecting I would get business from her, but it's just incredible what happens over time. She needed something, she phoned up, etc., etc. I was there in her network. I was there as part of her ecosystem. So I think that's really important, that we don't just think about, what am I going to get out of it now? Just understand that things will come in the longer run.
Thank you. Yes, and May, please.
Vandana, you and me have the exact same thoughts, except I was talking in a little bit different thought, but in principle, it's the same. For me, I think Sonny was mentioning that, networking is it sounds fun and it looks fun, and it is fun. Because personally, I take networking as something fun. I don't take it as something that, I'm expecting a ROI for my investment in attending an event, or it's a barter trade that if I come here, I would meet my potential client or my potential employer or whatever. I came in just because I want to know people. And I think once we connect with people and once we know people, we either find businesses, we either find network, people who would introduce us to other people because they know us. And by the way, I was here because Mariko has been a really, really long time friend. I knew her long back, and she introduced me to Richam. So it was through someone I knew probably by now 20 years ago. And because we are still in touch, things came up, like you said, you don't know when, and you wouldn't know what it will turn out to be. But if we start putting into I'm attending an event, I'm attending an event where I pay this much membership, or I am paying this much to attend an event or a webinar, what am I going to get out of it? Then you will find yourself very disappointed, because if you don't get something today, you would say, oh, my ROI is not good. So it's not a good deal. But if you think that, oh no, I want to be here just because I want to see people, I want to see what's out there, there are a lot of people that we don't know, a lot of different type of people, a lot of different new things that we may or we may not know. And by networking, we see them. Like today, I met Vandana, I met Sonny, I met Chris. All these are very wonderful people that if I did not say, oh, let me join, then I wouldn't have met all of you. So I think I used to be very active in what we call a Malaysian club. Back then, a Malaysian Club Jakarta. Today is a Malaysian club, Malaysian Business Chamber, whereby it's just a whole group of Malaysian where we all work in Indonesia. So we all miss home. We all we find connections when we join together. Back then how it is. And businesses, relationship, friendship form out of this network. And then through this Malaysian community, we get involved into Eurochamps and other networks, or Singaporean, our neighbors. So through this community, we expand ourselves and a lot of things came out of it, whether it's related to money or business or friendship, which I value then as there's a dollar sign to it, but not the way we see it as a return of investment. Rather than trust, people know us, we know people, and those are valuable. for us in terms of when we network means we get introduced from one person to the other person. It may not be a direct thing, but it will be an indirect impact from that relationship that we build. So I think it's important and people should continue to network, whether it's online or offline. Online has proven to be very nice because we get to extend to people not in the same country. We get to meet people like today, Vandana. If it's going to be a physical meeting, I wouldn't have met her.
Yeah.
Thank you, May. And this leads me perfectly to the next question. Just one more question for Vandana. Can you share how being part of a chamber has actually helped you in the work that you do?
Yeah, goodness. The reason I received the OBE from the Queen was directly the end result of this. So, well, you heard the glamorous side of my story, which is that I set up my first company and sold it to a listed company when I was 27. That sounds so glamorous. And it was, but I became very arrogant when I did that. I just thought, this is unbelievable. This is so easy. And then they said, we want you to move. So I was based in Bucharest in Romania then. And they said, we want you to move to Poland. And this was in the pre-Google days, pre-Facebook, pre-internet. This was back in 98, I think. And so the only way that I could find out about Poland, and I'd never visited Poland, but I kind of thought, it's not far from Romania. They'll be very similar. No, no, not at all. And so although I tried to research Poland, I couldn't at that time. So I turned up in Poland and I went for a week of meetings, and every single meeting was terrible back then. It was either, you've got experience from Romania. No, Poles are very different to Romania. Then I'd try England and they'd go, oh, no, Poles are very different to England. And, whatever I said didn't work. And after 4 days, I was just miserable. I was ready to, oh my goodness, I need to give this up. There's no way that I can open this same business in Poland. And I remember crying in my hotel room on Thursday night, and it was December and it was minus 40 degrees outside and snow up to here. And I was just like, I have to go back to Romania and I have to turn down this job. I cannot run their international division. And just then a newspaper was pushed under the door, and it was one of those local, Warsaw-wide newspaper in English. And it had an advert for a business mixer with the British Chamber of Commerce in Poland. So I looked at my watch and I looked out of the window and I thought, can I be bothered? Because it was that evening, it was in an hour's time. Can I be bothered to go out? And I thought, you know what, Vandana, come on, you are a fighter. So I washed my face, put makeup on, got my clothes on, walked outside, got a taxi. What should have been a 15-minute journey was 45 minutes. I was cursing all the way there. I get there, I walk into the room, there's like 150 people, and all, no offense, Chris, but men who were probably over the age of 50. And there I was. And I was just like, oh my goodness, why did I come? And again, they were clinking champagne glasses because it was Christmas. And I felt so out of place. But from the corner of my eye, I spied these 3 women. And so I went straight over to them and I started talking, and I said, it's so good to see women at an event like this. And this was back in 97, right? So they went, oh, you're English. And I went, yeah, I'm Indian, but British. And they said, what are you doing here? And I was holding back the tears and I was saying, well, I came here, you won't have heard of my company. I work for a company called BPP. We train people in finance and management. And I'm here to open a business, but I've had the most horrendous week. And they looked at me and they went, I know BPP. I studied with them in the UK. I'm a partner at Price Waterhouse. And the next one went, I know BPP. I didn't study with you. I studied with your competitor, but I did ICAEW and I'm a partner with KPMG. And the third one was the deputy CFO of Unilever. And it wasn't their positions, but it was just that they understood, and they grabbed my mobile phone. We did have mobile phones back then. And they started putting phone numbers into my phone. First of all, their phone numbers, then the name of a lawyer who spoke really good English, a company where I could rent an apartment, an English-speaking taxi company. They asked me, because they knew I was Indian, they said, are you vegetarian? I said, yes. They put in the number of the only vegetarian Indian restaurant in Warsaw. So like overnight, I had, because of one event, I had the opportunity to meet, and then they all became clients. We became really good friends. When I moved to Budapest, one of them happened to move at the same time. It was just phenomenal. And then through that, when I moved to India, my city, Pune, doesn't have a British chamber. So I asked if I could set up a business group for the UK and India, and the High Commission said yes. So I set that up and it became very successful. Then when the Prime Minister at that time, David Cameron, was setting up the UK-India Business Council, so kind of like a international kind of organization, I was asked to be on it. And so all of these things happened all because of going to that one event, speaking to those three ladies. Everything's come back. So I'm very, very grateful to the Chambers. And, to all the people listening, just reach out, take the initiative, get hold of Sony, contact us on LinkedIn. But, I'm sure Chris and the team organize other events. Get involved, because the more involved you get, the more things are going to happen.
Thank you, Vandana. That story just touches my heart and resonates exactly why I do what I do. So over to you, Chris, on this high note.
Well. No offense, hey, Vandana. No offense taken. At least you used the age of 50 as your reference point on age. That was at least a relief. And it's great to note that the reason why you had a successful event was because the Chamber had put on such a male-dominated event. You could pick out those other two ladies, or those other three ladies as well. Of course, I'm being facetious.
Yes.
What I'm not being facetious about now is to say, years ago, when we were at networking events, you used to go out of your way to avoid people that had a background in finance and accounting, because they were the bland, mundane, boring people. They were going to have a deflating experience with them. So it's been absolutely refreshing to have you two younger ladies here on this particular program with your backgrounds as well. If I could just, May, it's inspiring, not that your organization that has grown in terms of turnover by 3 times in 2 years, because I think there are a lot of companies that boast improvements in profits. What I think from a business perspective, from somebody that has thoroughly enjoyed being a guest in our host country, Indonesia, is that you have actually grown your headcount by 3 times as well, and given employment opportunities to so many other younger people. Absolutely fantastic. In the context of Vandana, I love this expression, people ecosystem. Personally, I think the word networking and calling an event a networking event very much overplayed, and I agree with you. Anything that brings people together in any format, whether it's the virtual format now or the more physical format that we built our reputation on as a Chamber of Commerce. Very, very important indeed. May, a question was sent in by email beforehand, and it comes from Gani Junandi. He's the marketing director of an organization called Fortrust, and he has particular interest in food and beverage, and he asks the question, how do you set about looking for investors in food and beverage, in the food and beverage business or the food and beverage sector? What actually are the things that investors are looking for? What would trigger their interest and take them from being interested to actually putting money where their mouth is?
Okay, I can thank you for the question. I think most importantly is food F&B. Pre-pandemic and currently is still it's a new segment, and it's a very sexy business because F&B comes in a lot of different forms, right? So one of our active investors, we are part, who are the founding partners for Yummy? It's the Ismaya Group. So Ismaya Group is a lifestyle and it's a phenomenon and a very big big player and instrumental towards how the landscape of F&B it's like today in Indonesia. So Ismaya having all those experience, and then but is something that they did like what now by now it's 20 years ago. But what Yummy does, or what investors are today looking at, what is it for the future? What is it for the future in F&B? How is it going to look like? So, and our founding partner has this vision of what we call the cloud kitchen, where we call a virtual kitchen also, meaning he envisioned this. What if today we are ordering, a lot of times we are all ordering our food through GoFood, GrabFood, whatever. We want to eat something, we just take out our phone and then we search, oh, okay, what's available, what's good deal, and then what's nice. Or we think about, oh, I would like to eat a cake. Let's click Harvest cheesecake, or I click cheesecake. What are the available cheesecakes available? But when we order today, we still need to wait on average, say 15 to 30 minutes fastest to get our food. What we would like to achieve in the coming or the very near future is we could get our food within the time span 5 to 15 minutes, meaning literally we will have a kitchen in every corner of the town whereby you are able to order your favorite food. So that's why you don't even need to have a kitchen anymore at home, because it's meaningless. You don't need to cook, and you don't need to pre-order like half an hour earlier or 1 hour earlier or 1 day in advance. So that's something we would like to do, and the investors feel that, yeah, it is the future, and we are doing that, right? So we are opening cloud kitchens. We have grown from like 20 kitchens, like I say, to 80, and we are still aggressively growing today. And the other place is what we call a marketplace. So we recently, like 4 months ago, set up a marketplace called Yummy Shop, where these are for like the smaller players. You know, during COVID, I believe we are all consumers of one kind or another of people doing home cooking. Some housewife or some people have started selling their food on Instagram, on WhatsApp, friends of friends. You know, they used to do this, but for fun. Today, they're actually doing it as part of the business, because people get bored. If you eat the same thing all the time, it gets bored. So, and then, oh, this person make delicious cake. Oh, I want to order, like me, I haven't gone home for 2 years back to Malaysia. I miss Malaysian food. I really would like to eat anything that is Malaysia, because I cannot go home. So I have two choices: either I cook myself or I buy. And then, you know, these players are in. So we work with all these Instagram player, or we call it in locally UMKM. So they're small players, individual players. Now we set a marketplace for them, instead of them taking orders through WhatsApp and Linktree, IG stories and all. They can come to our platform. So we are doing all these kind of things to essentially change how the F&B, or what we call, we are trying to disrupt the market on the food area. So I hope that explain, and why investors is interested, because it's something new. It's something not done before.
Yeah, great. Something not done before, something ahead of its time, anticipating trends, creating new trends. That's great. Thanks, May. Vandana, you mentioned when Sonny asked, apart from Zoom, which platforms would you say have an impact in terms of being successful for you in expanding your ecosystem? You mentioned LinkedIn. And a question that's been asked actually by a couple of people, I'm sort of taking the threads of both together. I think one of the challenges many people have on platforms like LinkedIn, you get an awful lot of invitations from people who you feel inclined not to respond positively for various reasons. Nothing to do with your sector of interest, maybe a sense of they're in a totally different job space, whatever it might happen to be. Is there a way of not appearing to be offish, not appearing to be arrogant in letting people down and not accepting them? Or is it simply a matter, and you mentioned it earlier, well, you really never know who you're going to meet, so why decline anyone?
You know, that's a really good question. I think there's two things that you have to think about. It depends on what you're doing. If you're an entrepreneur and you're trying to scale a business, then it's a good idea to get anyone and everyone following you because as soon as you've accepted, then they will see anything that you post. It's going to come up in their feed, right? So if you are an entrepreneur and you are looking at scaling your business, I kind of feel that it's a good idea. But you can always, and I tend to do this, when somebody asks to connect to me, I will send them a message saying, hey, it's great that we connected. Was there a particular purpose? Please know I'm not interested in buying any services at the moment. So I preempt that, right? And then they get the answer. And if they spam me, then there's a way of removing contacts as well. Now, if you're working in a corporate, then I think it's very different. I think then you have to go and look at their profile. You have to kind of see, is there something we've got in common? Is there something that I could learn from this person? Is there something that they're doing that looks interesting? And if it's not the case, I think it's okay to just decline the invitation. They don't know that you've declined it. All they know is it hasn't been answered.
That's great. Thanks very much. I feel like somebody who perhaps shouldn't be in this group here. So no, I'm going to hand back to Sonny.
Thank you so much, Vandana. And really, as Chris said, this has been really a very supercharged event. And there's been so many gems from both of you. And I'm sure the recording is going to be something that I will also be listening again and again, because I really love this topic. And unfortunately, we are very close to our end, although there are still a few questions. But I would like both of you to now just share one takeaway each, just one takeaway for someone who is still afraid of networking, despite the past 45 minutes of us being so enthusiastic about networking. Would you please kindly share from your own personal experience one key takeaway each?
May, do you want to go first?
Yeah, May.
You want me to go first? Okay.
Okay.
Well, I would reinstate what I say just now and what Sonny does for her life. Networking is fun, so treat it as a fun event, and not to treat it as a business, because business is not fun. But networking is fun. Networking is making relationship, getting to know people, letting other people to know you. So continue to do that because it's fun. It's not something to be scared of, and it's not something to count for ROI. So if we stop thinking about that, then we will continue to network.
Yeah, and I'd love to add to what May said. I think that was brilliant. Yeah, and how do you do it? I think I use the 3 words: be playful, courageous, and curious. If you start thinking, now what do I say? And you just think, what would I like to know? What's happening in my life that I don't mind sharing? Just be playful, courageous, and curious. Everyone's the same. Everyone's the same at the end.
Thank you. And, that brings us up very nicely to the end of the event. And I would just like to add that thank you so much to both of you. I learned so much today. And I would just like to add to everyone that really what I found, why I network 10 years now and even longer, and I attend as many events as I can, whether it's offline or on Zoom, is because to me, there has been never 2 events which are alike. Every event is unique. Every person you meet at an event is unique. And there has never been a boring session. I've always learned something, if not from the speakers, then from a fellow participant. And I've always met someone that I've been able to connect with. So for me, each event brings something if you're open to it. And the thing that we need to remember is that the power is within us. The purpose of why we are attending the event is also within us. And if we just want to learn, play, grow, and share in a fun environment, I don't know anything better than a networking or a community or a social event. So please, everybody out there, just do it. There's nothing to worry about. Just be yourself, be authentic, and be open. and you will be surprised at what the universe will bring for you. Yeah. Thank you for this magical evening. And I hand it back to Chris for him to end the session. And please join us for our next event. Those of you who have joined us for the first time, as Vandana and May mentioned earlier, please reach out to me. I'm more than happy to assist you with any of your networking questions and to help you to become a part of our BridgeCham community, which I am so grateful to be part of. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sonny. And I think that's a perfect little segue for me to say that we noticed by the number of people that are on this particular call, there are a lot who are not members. Please do take account of what May had to say and Vandana had to say about the contribution that being a part of a Chamber of Commerce community has made in terms of their own lives, their own careers. So if you're not a member, please do take a look at BridgeCham. And if you need help persuading some of your other corporates within your organization that it's an excellent investment, we'll be happy to help you with that. The other thing that we're really keen to hear about is what is going on in other companies in terms of uplifting, elevating, connecting women. If your organization, however large or small, have any activities that are really focused on the development of women in the workspace, in the professional space, then please let us know what those things are. And perhaps there's a way in which we can combine to make them more effective. So appreciate that. In terms of recognizing our supporting partner, I don't think who's ICAEW, the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales, I don't think I can say any more than pointing out just what a tremendous change has happened over the last couple of decades in terms of the people that are going through the finance and accounting qualifications. I mean, it used to be the case, it really was, that I wasn't joking before, it was the bean counters. But, there you have May, absolutely 100% in touch with the marketing role that finance has to play, and Vandana building her ecosystem. So for anyone thinking in terms of developing themselves through finance and accounting, our member ICAEW can certainly point the way in a more modern era in terms of what qualifications can do in elevating your own career. And with that, I would just like to thank our sponsors, 57 Promenade, Shell Indonesia, South Quarter Residence Jakarta, and Unilever Indonesia as well. And there's just one little sad note to leave us on, and that is that Asti, who, if you've been on any webinars with BridgeCham, will know has been leading our webinar since March, since we went online March 2020. She's also been the face at the physical events for the previous couple of years to that as well. Asti is leaving us today. Today is her last day of BridgeCham. We're delighted. She started with us as an intern. She stepped up and has been our events coordinator, and she's now recognized a new opportunity to grow herself, and we wish her well. And I sincerely thank her for being the great support that she has to me, the great friend and team person that she's been to everyone within our office, and the reliable person that every member and every guest of BridgeCham will recognize and remember her for. Thank you, Asti. With that, thank you all for joining us. Sonny, wonderful again. May, Vandana, thanks for your contribution in making this a truly memorable 1 hour with BridgeCham. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now we have the mentee. So please, everybody, feel free to type your takeaway from this session. Maybe we can already, can you tell us how to use it? Please, Elvira, can you show us how to use the Menti?
So for everyone, we also already share the link, or you can just scan the QR code or go to menti.com, then enter the code 3906 51 8 and 3. Then yeah, you guys can see that you can type the key takeaways there.
Thank you very much, everyone. Goodbye and have a wonderful evening. Stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you very much